Ladies and gentlemen, to Mixed Up Sports on twitch.tv/Mixed Up Sports Talk on January 29th, 2016. It's an exciting week in sports with the Pro Bowl and All-Star game for the NFL and NBA respectively. And first off, we've got breaking news here. The Chargers owner Dean Spanos has just announced that the San Diego Chargers will in fact be the San Diego Chargers for at least the 2016 season, which as a Chargers fan in San Diego, that's great news for me, at least for this season. Don't know what the future holds, but it's certainly a good short time experience for us now. Frankie and Crucia, what do you have to say?
Oh, sorry. I thought.
Right, it is. It's it. I mean, it's 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 very interesting what's going on with the Chargers right now. I mean, they have an agreement set up to move to Los Angeles next season. They've chose to stay in San Diego this year, which I think for them would be a smart move. I mean, when you would be sharing the would you be sharing the LA Coliseum with USC and uh, the Rams? I mean, this definitely does seem to be the more logical choice for San Diego, at least for this season.
Yeah, like you had mentioned, it gives them the opportunity to build that new stadium that they can call that home for them in the coming years. But in San Diego at least, that hoorah! This is one that watched the team play. They're all for the season, and hope giving back to the community of San Diego, say thank you for letting us as an organization be here and play and have you guys, watch us. So I think this is for Charger fans. This is great news just for this season, but afterwards, for a long haul, LA is going to have two teams. So there we go.
Now, I'm not too sure on if they'll have two teams. They agree in principle, but that might just be Dean Spanos leveraging, or that might just be me, hoping. But like we've mentioned, it's a great time for San Diego fans, at least for the time being, as keep the Chargers, and then we don't know the future after that. But hey, we have the Chargers for the 2016 season, and for me, that's good enough.
Spanos has said he's working on trying to get a long-term agreement done here in San Diego, which to me that just screams liar, 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 liar. But I mean, this it didn't make any sense to move up to Los Angeles this year. If you think about it, the Chargers are getting paid anywhere between $250,000 and $500,000 to play here in San Diego when they should be paying about $3.2 million rent. They're actually getting paid to play here. And to go up to LA in a stadium that's not done yet, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So I mean, logical choice for the Chargers actually was to stay down here in San Diego for at least another year, maybe two.
But along with that, you also open up the possibility of what can happen next season. Because as of right now, this is why I stated, and you brought up that this could be, liar, liar, pants on fire kind of deal where, things could actually change. And for all we know, they might. We still have in limbo the whole Oakland Raiders situation, whether or not they'll stay in Oakland, or, we've heard now in recent events that they could possibly move down to San Diego or, LA. We don't know what's going on with the Raiders exactly, but in same sense for the Chargers, like you would say, this is possibly the best move for them to give them opportunity for that new stadium and to get, like I said earlier, to give the Chargers fans in San Diego the last ride into the sunset before they leave San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Frankie, it makes sense to stay in San Diego, like you both mentioned, because also, if they were to move up to LA, they'd forfeit the $100 million bonus that the NFL would give them to build a stadium in San Diego, and then they would have to pay the $500 million relocation fee. And so, just staying in San Diego, they're saving 500 million and then getting an extra 100 million. So hopefully that since they have a deal done in LA, that the mayor of San Diego, Kevin Faulconer, might treat it with more urgency as far as if he's gonna, that he
Treated it
knows.
with a ton of urgency this season, but the Chargers still bolted. I mean, it's no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, he was Faulkner. He still kind of was hesitant on trying to compromise, and he wanted it this way. It was kind of they were just butting heads both times, but maybe since Spanos actually has some leverage here with a deal done, they might realize that not realize, but figure out that they're fine with moving up to LA and that they don't have any leverage and they pretty much have to agree with Dean Spanos almost. So as a Chargers fan, I hope and I pray that the Chargers will permanently stay in San Diego. But for at least them to stay in the 2016 season, I don't have to make the choice of if I want to go with them up to LA in spirit, I guess, and be a fan of them, or find a new team, I guess. Right now, I can still call the Chargers my hometown team, and I'm thankful for that.
Would you root for the San Diego Raiders?
No, no, that is the ultimate slap in the face. Even if they're the hometown team, I've grown up my
You got a
entire
better,
life learning to
you
hate
got
the
a better
Raiders,
quarterback
basically.
though.
Yeah, but still, it's the principle. Like, it's just I've grown up hating them my entire life. I can never see me hopping on the silver and black bandwagon and cheering for the Raiders. It's just there's just something that goes against it. I don't have anything against Derek Carr or any or Amari Cooper. I can't root for the organization. And if the Raiders end up in San Diego and the Chargers go up to LA, I mean, like I mentioned before, it'll just be the biggest slap in the face with your rivals moving to where your team was, and then your team moving away. I mean, it'd definitely be tough to take in with all that happening. And I don't know. Luckily, we don't have to go to that ultimatum, I guess, of choosing a team. But like I said, it's good to have the Bolts here in San Diego for the season, and I can actually look forward to the draft.
Yeah, I mean, and I just went through the same thing with the New York Islanders leaving the Nassau Coliseum and not knowing where they were going. So I mean, I definitely know how you feel about a year or so ago.
Yeah, when you had stated, the whole if Oakland came, well, not Oakland, if Raiders came down to San Diego, would you root for them? And no, that's like for you, Frankie, if the Cowboys went to New York, or if for my case, if Bears went to Green Bay, it'd be
Kept myself in Dallas with New York.
Yeah, exactly. I had a hard time going to Chicago as a Packer fan. I don't know how I feel about going to Green Bay as a Packer fan, with if the Bears end up going there. But I understand the situation for you guys, Nick, and at least congrats to you guys having fun for at least a season, and then having the opportunity of going through it next season. About, are we gonna actually lose them this year? Are we gonna keep them? Keep the heartache coming for you guys, I guess.
Yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting year ahead of us as the deadline for the Chargers to make a decision whether they will permanently move to LA or permanently stay in San Diego is, I believe, mid-January of 2017. So that'll be when Judgment Day comes, I guess, for us. And from this breaking news, the NBA All-Star rosters were announced last night. The reserves were announced. We knew the starters for a little bit, and last night the reserves were announced. And for the West, the whole roster goes Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook as the starters. And in the reserves, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Chris Paul, James Harden, DeMarcus Cousins, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Anthony Davis.
And for the East, you got your starters of Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, LeBron James, Kyle Lowry, Dwayne Wade. The reserves, Jimmy Butler, John Wall, Andre Drummond, Chris Bosh, DeMar DeRozan, Paul Millsaps, and Isaiah Thomas.
As a Celtics fan, I love hearing that Isaiah Thompson. I'm so happy, not Thompson, Thomas, excuse me. I'm so happy to see him, going in there at least. But I know we talked about it a couple shows ago or whatnot. But Kobe Bryant still being a starter still baffles me. Some of the names on there too, I thought, they didn't deserve it as much as others. We had talked about it off show, but Paul Millsap, and we thought that Porzingis could have possibly been traded with him. There's a lot of players on there who, could have deserved to make it, and some players who, didn't make it that didn't deserve it. Well, like Jeremy Lin had an opportunity of making it, but he ended up not being on the roster at all. So overall, this All-Star game is going to be pretty interesting to watch with all these big names going into it.
And we talked about this with the fan voting in I think a couple shows ago, but looking down with the reserves and starters being announced, Kyrie Irving, who we thought was kind of not overrated, but he shouldn't have made the All-Star rosters because of his injury, and he actually didn't make it because of that injury, which I think that's right. That even though he's played what, like 10, 12 games, something like that, hasn't played half a season like the rest of them have, like most of them have, and for him to have an opportunity to get into the All-Star game, that was a little bit surprising. And then Kobe Bryant, I mean, I've been thinking about this for a little bit, and I think that the good compromise would be for him to be named an All-Star, named an All-Star starter, and go out there, participate in the festivities, be out on the court for tip-off, and then kind of play the minutes that the players on the reserves would play for the All-Star game, as we all know that Kobe doesn't, based on his play, certainly doesn't deserve to be a starter. Maybe an All-Star. I mean, that's a maybe, and
That's a push in itself.
yeah, that's pushing it. But so we all know that this is just kind of a formality to send him off, and he knows it too. He's not over there like, oh, I deserve to be an All-Star this time. He knows that it's a formality, that the fans voted him in. So just have him out there as a starter, and then just give him the minutes that the reserves players would get, and put out the rightful, I guess, starter in there.
Kirsch, I remember you and me having a very, very calm discussion last week about that. I definitely think Kobe deserves to be a starter. I mean, like I said last week, for everything he's done in this league, he was the face of the NBA for a decade. He definitely deserves it, especially if this being his farewell season. Like I said, if this was not his last season, he doesn't deserve to be anywhere near this All-Star game. But because it is his last season, I'll give it the pass.
I don't know if sports is all about giving someone the pass. Well, hey, Cavaliers came close to winning the NBA championship. You should give them a pass and say they won it. No, for me, that's not okay. I don't. Yes, it's his last season. He deserves a good send off, but I think starter's a little bit too much, and even being an All-Star is kind of pushing it. But I'll understand if he's a. For me, it shouldn't be about fan voting. I wish they would go back to letting the league players even announce it. And if they ended up voting him into being the All-Star, then an All-Star starter, then go ahead, then he deserves it. But I feel that he didn't deserve to be a starter as much as he deserved to be a reserve on the All-Star team.
Yeah, I mean, so Frankie, let me ask you this question: should he play All-Star starter minutes, or should he push back to the reserves for minutes?
I don't think. I mean, when it comes to All-Star game, I don't think there is such a thing as reserve minutes. I think if Popovich was smart, which he is a very, very smart man, he'd try to play them all evenly. But I don't think if you're asking me if he were to get the max over the, let's say he cuts it 55-45 between his starters and his bench, I definitely think Kobe should be in the 45, not the 55.
All right, there. That's all right. So you're not extremely delusional. No, I'm kidding. We all know that he's not playing at the caliber that these starters are playing. So it's a formality, a good send off, and I agree with what you're saying, Frankie. Is that if there is a split between the minutes, then he'll get the lower half.
Now, earlier I didn't hear you say this, but did on that list of players that you stated, Frankie, Nick, for the West, was Rajon Rondo on that list? because the guy's been averaging a double double. He's been playing phenomenally since he's been on the Kings. With the partnership with DeMarcus Cousins. Is he on that
The
list?
only the only Sacramento player on that list is DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah. See, like I said, I don't necessarily agree with all the players that are on or not on that list. It's I
Would you put him in over Steph Curry?
not over Steph Curry. No.
Would you put him in over Chris Paul?
No.
Well, there you go.
Okay, but did players do you think Klay Thompson should have made it? I mean, he's a good two guard, but do you think he deserves to be an all-star?
Behind James Harden? Yes. Who name another person besides James Harden who's over?
Well, I don't know. See, that's the thing though. I'm saying if it sucks that they have to put limitations on positions because there's players who I think they should make it. And for me, I think Rajon Rondo's been playing really well. And
Well, you can't have a whole All-Star team made out of power forwards. It's
no, I'm not. No, I understand that. But for me, it's I don't know for skill reasons and I guess deserving. I would still, like I said, Kobe Bryant wouldn't be a starter if it was about deserving. But that's I guess that's where the thing goes between fan voting and actual skill is what the fans want, the fans get, and we've seen that time and time again.
if you think of this, the West, just because we're using the West, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, they're both threes. They're both the small forwards. As far as fours and fives go, the power forward and the centers, only Draymond Green, DeMarcus Cousins, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Anthony Davis. Those are the only ones that made it. The rest of them are up front. They have 4 point guards and 3 shooting guards. And I mean, would you put and to add another name to that list, would you put Rajon Rondo over Russell Westbrook who's starting? No.
No. Okay, I see. Yeah, I understand that. I understand where you're coming from, I guess. But I'm just simply saying that, it's I feel that some of these players, would deserve to make it. I guess over those names that you've listed for point guard position, no, he doesn't deserve it if we're looking at that. I guess I'm just looking at his personal performance. I guess I'm not looking at the comparing aspect, which in All Stars you really should do, I guess. In that in that regard, yeah, he doesn't deserve to be over Curry, Westbrook, or Chris Paul, or any of those guys for that matter. But I still think he's a good player. But over to the East side, and I know you're a New York fan. Do you think Porzingis should be on that? On people because Millsap
over Millsap, yes.
Okay. So there's obviously some fault in some of the rostering for the All-Star game.
Of course. But the one thing they definitely did got right, and Nick, you said it before, was they definitely got not adding Kyrie Irving right. They definitely got that one right.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did get it right in some aspects, but one issue I have with the fan voting is that, I mean, like you mentioned before, on the starters, you got Kevin Durant, who maybe he could play a stretch four if he needed to. Same with Carmelo Anthony and Paul George, but none of these players would play center in an NBA game. So I feel like what they need to do is for the starters at least have a list of 2 guards, 2 forwards, and then a center, because you need sure, it's great to have all one guard or guards and forwards running around the court, but I mean it's not. I don't know. I feel like they need to have some restrictions where you can't have 4 point guards like you mentioned and only a few big men. I feel like they need to put some restrictions on at least the starters at least to make it a little more fair, because I mean DeMarcus Cousins, he should be starting. Andre Drummond should be starting, but with how they're doing it, they're not.
All right. Well, you answered my next question, which was if they had that format, who would you have starting at center? And you said Cousins and you said Drummond. I personally would argue for even Anthony Davis. The way he's been playing these last couple of years has been just outrageous. He's pretty much lifted this Pelicans team solely with people. He's been helping people around him, and he's still a young guy. He's only been in the league, 4 or 5 years, if that. But yeah, there are some faults, but there are also some things they got right, and I can agree with you guys on the Kyrie Irving part. But overall, there's obviously everyone's going to have arguments about it, and that's where we all stand on that.
Yeah, there's definitely some fault in fan voting, and they need to fix that to at least have some type of monitoring on the fan voting. because of the faults that we've mentioned. But it's about that time, so we'll go to break and we'll be back soon after that.